recognized. Mr. Nadler for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lopez, I have to start by saying that I'm greatly concerned about EPA's response to Hurricane Maria. It's eerily similar to EPA's response after 9/11 at the World Trade Center in my district in New York, when EPA infamously and incorrectly declared the air is safe to breathe and the water was safe to drink. Thousands of people became sick and hundreds died because of EPA's negligence and lying at that time. So I'm very concerned with that precedent. Now, I hope you can finally clear up some confusion related to news reports of people drinking water from wells on the Dorado groundwater contamination Superfund site. On Tuesday, an EPA spokesperson was quoted that water being pulled from the Dorado Superfund site is, quote, okay to consume based on the analysis that we've done, unquote, a quote that could have come directly 17 years ago. The day before, EPA responded to committee staff to the very same question about whether people were obtaining drinking water from the Dorado site, that people are not drinking water from the EPA Superfund site wells, unquote. That's troubling because it adds to the confusion, secrecy, and distrust of government sources in protecting public health and the environment. So I have some specific questions regarding the Dorado Superfund site and EPA actions to protect human health from known contaminants on that site. The Dorado Superfund site was listed to the National Priorities List just last year, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Thank you. This Superfund site consists of a groundwater plume of industrial chemicals and solvents, including TCE, PCE, chloroform, and other chemicals known to have adverse human health effects, both short-term and long-term, correct?
Correct, sir.
Thank you. It is my understanding that 2 wells on the Dorado Superfund site, the Navarez and Santa Rosa well sites, still have active wells in operation, some of which the press has reported were used as a source of drinking water following Hurricane Maria. Is that correct?
That's also correct.
Has EPA investigated whether any other well on the Dorado site was used as a source of drinking water since Hurricane Maria?
So, sir, those are the 2 that we understand are the ones that are used on an interim basis by PRASA, which is the utility.
So the answer is you haven't investigated whether other sites were used?
Our understanding is that no other sites are used, so those are the 2.
It's also my understanding that when the Dorado Superfund site was listed on the NPL, sampling at the Navarez and Santa Rosa sites both found traces of these industrial chemicals, including chloroform, DCE, TCE, and PCE. Is that correct?
It is correct. Just as a note, though, if I may, so
Talk a little louder, please.
If I may, the chloroform piece was a byproduct of chlorination, so that was an early indication that that is part of a public water supply.
But all of these chemicals were found there.
In terms of if I may, in terms of the chemical analysis, the analysis is roughly was conducted on a regular basis by the Department of Health on Puerto Rico and by PRASA. We also have done sampling. Ultimately, in terms of the threshold of safety, those levels for the Santa Rosa and Navarro
Okay, but all of
are below safe tolerance levels for standard drinking water.
You're saying that all of these chemicals are found there, but they're below tolerance levels?
Correct, sir.
All right. Now, the Wednesday news report quotes an EPA spokesperson as saying that water being pulled from the Dorado Superfund site meets federal drinking water standards, unquote. Is that based on EPA testing since the landfall of Hurricane Maria?
Yes, sir. We have testing underway. We actually completed the testing for bacterial, microbial.
So that, but that
VOC.
statement that the water meets federal drinking water standards, that's based on the EPA testing since the landfall?
It is, and we have the results in-house.
Okay. Has EPA made all of the drinking water sampling data publicly available?
We are working towards that, sir, and be happy to provide a greater expanded.
But you haven't made it publicly available?
We have the VOC and the microbial. We have still working on the drinking water, and we'd be happy to.
And you will make all the sampling data
Happy to do that, sir.
Immediately available?
As soon as we have the available data, we can give it right to you.
The press also reports that in 2016, when the Dorado Superfund site was initially listed on the Superfund National Priorities List, that EPA stated, quote, drinking water with the solvents which include tetrachloroethylene and trichloroethylene can have serious health impacts, including damage to the liver and increasing risk of cancer, close quote. Now EPA is saying that the water is safe to consume. Is that because they're below threshold levels, or why the change in position in just 1 year?
So there's no change in position, sir. There are thresholds that are part of the drinking water, safe drinking water standards, and in terms of testing, again, for the Navarro and the Santa Rosa sites, those are.
All right, so your testimony is that all of these poisonous chemicals are there, but that they're all below tolerable levels.
Sir, we are, again, our testimony is they are within drinking water tolerance
That,
levels.
yeah, but you said that most of
Which are
them, all the
national
ones I
standards.
mentioned were there, but they're within drinking water tolerance levels.
Correct, sir.
Is there any scientific dispute as to what drinking water tolerable levels are?
I would have to get back to you on the detail of any scientific dispute. In terms of the standards are nationally known and are regularly imposed,
And
not
the
just in
reason
Puerto
I-
Rico, but in all communities across the United
The
States.
reason I ask the question,
But-
and my time is expiring, so let me be very quickly here, is because this is exactly what we got from EPA after 9/11. All the toxins in the air were below tolerable levels. They were all okay, and everybody was going to be fine. And thousands of people are sick, and hundreds of people are dead because they weren't fine. And that's why I'm very skeptical. I thank you. I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. With that, I recognize Mr.